Hi, I hope you will stay until lunch break and give me your time. Thanks for having me. I'll talk about graphing everything. And perhaps it's time to introduce myself. Who am I? If you watched the program carefully, if you read it carefully, you should be surprised that I'm Oliver. Florian from our company wanted to give this talk, but he got sick, so I jumped in. I'm a senior engineer in the data and infrastructure team at Gute Frage. I came from development, so no devs bashing, please. But I always loved to work dev and ops together, so I'm really a DevOps advocate, yeah. Some of you are not from Germany, so you probably don't know Gute Frage.net. We are actually Germany's biggest question and answer platform, a bit like Quora. And it's not a small market in Germany either. We are the biggest site in MobileNet in Germany with 5 million unique users per month, and number 3 in desktop with 17 million. More than 4 million page views per day, just to give you perspective. We belong to Holzbrink Group and run several other platforms inside our company, not only Gute Frage.net, but Helpstead, which is editorial content, Cosmic, which was called Lycos IQ when the dinosaurs were around, and Comprano, which is a shopping advice site. Okay. Has anyone heard of flight AB6188? Didn't think so. It was the plane that brought me here yesterday. Everything went fine. You can fly home safely. Okay, what will you get in this talk? First, I'll talk about how we store metrics at Gute Frage and what are our experiences with it, because there's no ideal world, not even in our company. Why do we do all these metrics? And to end, some random thoughts about metrics in general and so on. Okay, how do we store it? When we were looking for our new metric system 1.5 or 2 years ago, we had some requirements. We wanted to get big with metrics. We wanted to have a lot of time series, so creating new metrics has to be simple. If you plan to do hundreds or even thousands of time series, every line of code that you can save counts. And we're living in a big data world now. RRD tool was okay when disks were expensive, but disks are cheap now. We don't want to throw data away ever, because we don't know yet what we might need from, or what we might be able to learn from these data in a couple years. So it might be valuable we save all the data. And of course, I told you we have several platforms. We are going to even get more platforms, start new platforms. We grow in size, all of our platforms, so the system has to scale. That was a requirement. And so we ended up using OpenTSDB. It's Open Time Series Database. It's been written at StumbleUpon. It's been open sourced since. Tumblr uses it, so it scales, we know that. And it does so because it uses HBase as the underlying data storage. So distribution is built right in. You have no single point of failure if your HDFS has no single point of failure, which in default setting, the name node still is a single point of failure. But you can have redundancy. Yeah, and you have, it's a distributed system. You run multiple time series daemons. And so if one of your nodes goes down, nothing really happens. Let me talk about the ecosystem in which this OpenTSDB sits. We have applications that send their metrics, whatever they are, to RabbitMQ queue, and we gather that. And so metrics are generated automatically whenever something new comes in. So devs can create a new metric all by themselves. We don't know that. We don't need to know that. We base Izinga checks on the metrics and do alerting that way. We are currently evaluating Skyline by Etsy. At the moment, I have a feeling it gives us too much false positives, but that might be a configuration issue. We are not yet sure. And we deploy our sensors via chefs to all the machines running certain roles, having certain roles, to make sure everything is tracked and measured. Our experiences so far. What really works well is we have about 200 million data points per day, 4-node cluster, everything's fine. Really no load issues at all. T-Collector is a nice piece of software. It runs on the clients where you have your sensors, and you have small scripts that just gather some data and put it out on the standard out, and T-Collector collects that, deduplicates it, pushes it to OpenTSDB. If the connection breaks, it buffers it. It really is a nice small decoupling tool. And creating new metrics is really easy. OpenTSDB is accessed via a telnet protocol, and you just send a metric with a new name out, and it's saved, and the new metric is there. But there are challenges. The user interface is seriously lacking. There's a suggester for the metric names. It just is broken. You have, out of the box, you don't have annotation support, and we know we want annotations. We wrote a patch there, and it works, but it's not ideal yet because, for example, we have only one annotation timeline at the moment, and we can't switch it off. And it's a 1 second time resolution. That wouldn't be a problem in itself for us, but you can only store 1 value per second per time series. So if you want to do something like percentiles, and we all know averages aren't enough, you can't do that after storing the data. You have to pre-compute it in your sensors. That's not the right way, but at the moment there's no way around that, but salvation is coming. OpenTSDB 2 is around the corner. They have already released candidate 1, so it should be a couple of weeks, couple of months at most, and then we get millisecond precision annotations and metadata for data points and time series, and a real API to access the thing. Okay, why? Metrics are cool, we all know that, and the graphs look cool, but metrics aren't an end in themselves. I think communication is one key factor. Like Jarko yesterday told us, data can tell stories. I still fail to see the dragons and the heroes in my data, but he's right, we have to have data in a way that human brains can understand it, and graphs are good at that. And you can replace gut feeling with real data. Someone coming in, I think the platform's a bit slow today. What do you do? No, I disagree. You need metrics to prove that, and he needs metrics to prove that. And once you have metrics for everything in place, you don't have these disputes anymore. And you don't have the blame game. If the site goes down, it's not, hey devs, what the fuck, you fucked up again. Or no, you just installed the wrong MySQL version or whatever. You just look at the data, you see it happens right when a deployment was done. Okay, it probably is the code. It happened when we installed a new software package, probably isn't the code. And then you totally skip the blaming and start directly looking for the cause of the problem and fixing it. Yeah, and as I told before, brains really like graphs more. If you have a long list of numbers, you can't see trends. You need graphs, brains need graphs. And of course we want to get insights. We are now moving, we had a monolithic PHP application. We are replacing it, moving toward a service-oriented architecture with Scala services. Each service has 3 or 4 VMs it's running on. It will be hard, it is hard to keep track of everything if we do not have some big overview. because it's not one system that fails. It rarely ever is. Usually it's a cascade of things and complex dependencies that make things break, and this behavior, you won't find it in the log files. You would have to jump around 20 machines for each request, tracking what happened where, and then, okay, 3 weeks later you know what happened with one request, but that's far too slow for our world. And again, graphs are the correct flight level to see what's going on in the broad scheme. We are all at a scale where we don't really bother about a single request, that we wonder about the patterns, and you see patterns in the graphs. Mit gute Frage. Embrace the idea of lean startup. Anyone not familiar with lean startup concept? Okay, so I'll make it quick. Lean startup is build, measure, learn cycle. So you build a minimum viable product that could be a new feature for us. It needn't be a new platform, just a new feature. Condense it down to the smallest possible portion that is still usable and gives value. Put it out in the open and then measure the hell out of it. We did it for a purpose. We have to measure whether that purpose is reached, and then we can learn. Therefore, you have to define your goals first. If you just deploy it, you will end up, the guy who proposed the feature will always tell you it's a success. Maybe it wasn't meant to be a success in that direction, but, well, users like it, or whatever, it's looking fancy. You have to define your goals first, then you can measure, and then you can learn. And yes, it's measuring, it's not guessing. If you ask the inventor of the new feature, it's working fine. You have to measure whether it's working. Guessing is not good enough. Operations traditionally was the only part in the company that used metrics, but that doesn't make sense. Operations still uses metrics and needs metrics, all those things you know, but devs too. They need metrics from live system just to get insight in how does the system perform in the live world. As I told before, I'm a DevOps guy. I like to tear down the border between devs and ops, and so I want them to know when something weird is happening to their application in real life. That can be somehow we have more queries, database queries per page view now, or some JSON script errors on some strange browsers that almost no one uses anymore, so we don't test for it, but perhaps we want to fix anyways. Product owners, of course, need metrics, how the application runs, how much content is created. We are a question and answer platform, remember. What's the content quality? It's hard to measure quality. We have things like content length as an indicator, or digs, or things like that. Yes, and nearly everybody else in the company. We track finance data, we track AdSense revenue. All those things, everyone wants to have a look, and we have one centralized point where all this data is stored, and everyone can get their graphs from there. Okay, now some completely random thoughts about metrics. I had a discussion recently about, do you display your metrics publicly? It helps everyone to see what's going on, and everyone's feeling involved, because everyone's a bit proud if he works at a company that's, whatever, doing 5,000 new questions per day or whatever, and everyone likes that. On the other hand, they see more than you see. They most of the time see things that aren't really relevant, but it's nice that they ask you about it. But it's not nice if they come screaming into your office, hey, the graph has moved, do something. But then that's a cultural issue. If you have a culture of trust, if everyone in the company knows ops is doing their best and ops are great guys, and then they won't come screaming in. They will ask you at a coffee break, hey, I saw something strange over there, can you explain? And that's okay, and that's exactly what I want. But just don't want to be distracted. Alerting is another thing. Izinga, Nagios, you traditionally had fixed values for when get a warning, when get a critical level. That doesn't make any sense at all. In night, when nothing happens, a load of 5 is really strange, and you might want to look at that, perhaps. In day, 5, no problem. Should be 15. So what we really, that's a reason why we evaluate Skyline. We need pattern matching there, we need AI in a sense. That tells you where to look. And I think we have to make a distinction between alerting and drawing attention. It's fine to have false positives if it's not interrupting you, if it's just, hey, over there something strange is happening. Perhaps if you have time, maybe you want to have a look. I like it if Izinga points that out, even if nothing happened. I don't like it if it disrupts my other work. Because false positives in real alerting in the sense of, hey, act now on that, they are bugs and they have to be fixed. Each and every false positive is a bug because you don't trust your alerting system anymore and it really disrupts your work. If you even switch for 3 minutes, half an hour of work is lost because you were thinking deeply about something, some problem, and you have to start over. Don't allow false positives. And don't call the on-call guy for nothing. If a server has high load, I won't get noticed. I won't get woken up. If the server crashes, if whatever, they don't call me. If the rack burns, okay, they might call me. They will call me if the site goes down. And that's the only thing we measure. For alerting, we don't watch individual servers. We just watch, is the application up? And not even all functions, just the core. Can you read our questions and answers? If users can't log in, can't post, they won't call me. My night's sleep is very important for me, as you all know, I guess, and for the company as a whole, because if I haven't slept well, my work the next day will be crap, and the work I do at nights isn't the best either. So it's really a real emergency. So core meltdown, okay, everything else, sleep. Metrics, everyone seems to see them as boring. And okay, load graphs, disk utilization, they are kind of boring. But you can and you should get creative with what you measure and really think outside the box. We had some brainstorming sessions about really what could conceivably be measured and what could we learn from that. And really, you have to be open. It's not, hey, I know Etsy's measuring that, we should do it too. Let your creativity flow, because you might come up with interesting ideas. One thing, okay, we copied that, but we like it, is this. This is a wall in our office. We painted it black, and once a week, every IT guy draws a graph of his happiness that week. That's not in our OpenTSDB, obviously. We don't need it to, but it's measuring, and it's a metric, and it is helpful because, okay, first of all, a line that's more on top than the other isn't necessarily happier because you can't really compare it. It's relative, perhaps to understand the graph. But this forces you to communicate. We all stand in front of this black wall, paint our graph, and say, and then I fixed that bug that was annoying me all those weeks. And you go up. Or my football team lost yesterday and go down. And we don't limit it to work-related because we want to learn everything we can about our teammates. And if you really listen, you can see some patterns. If everyone, we had that problem, if everyone or a lot of people are always or repeatedly complaining about it's too noisy in the office, then there's a problem. And if we limited what we are talking about to real work stuff, they wouldn't say, okay, it's in the kitchen, it's a bit loud, because that's not really work related, is it? But so we know, hey, we have a communication issue. If people don't meet in the kitchen because it's too noisy there, they won't communicate, and we end up in silos again. So we found the problem, we fixed it, we had some acoustic elements there, and it's really helpful to have a black wall, basically. A crazy idea I came up with, and it's untested. Perhaps someone of you will test it. I wanted to have a distinction between how confident is ops in the stability of the system versus how stable is it really, because we can all measure uptime. That's the easy part. But how much do you trust your system to stay up? My idea was we all have on-duty shifts. What if I could pay you to take over my on-call shift tonight? How much would you charge me? If you are confident, hey, I'll sleep like a baby, nevertheless, it may be $5. If you know, if I take over that shift, I will not close an eye, it may be $50. So really, the market value of your night shifts, of your on-call shifts, says something about the state of your system. And that's the kind, it's untested, I don't know whether that works, but that's the kind of creativity that I want you to try. Just think outside the box, get some crazy ideas, and if you have a system where creating new metrics is cheap, you can just try it out. You have nothing to lose, but you may gain insights. We track recruiting efforts. Again, the black wall. All those red lines are interviews, and we didn't hire them. The green ones are the few guys we hired. It helps every one of us to get a feeling about how difficult it really is to find good people. It fosters confidence in the people that are hired, because they know, okay, they trust me, they do not take everyone, and we need confidence for you to be able to stand up and say, okay, I'm sorry, I fucked up. You don't do that if you think, they didn't really trust me in the beginning, but everyone sees, hey, you were selected, we trust you, and okay, you just fucked up. That's the way. It reminds everyone to keep looking for new colleagues. We have we get some bounty if we bring in new people, and you see, hey, we still look for people. We can't fulfill it at the moment. And yes, we are hiring, so if you want to work with me, come to me later. Any questions? If not, then one more thing. That was actually my first talk at the conference, so please give me feedback. I'd like to hear from you. And before I leave, I'd like to show you some live graphs from our website, if I manage to. Oh, nope. I'm sorry. Here. If the wireless is as fast as promised, would be okay. Yes. Here you see we are tracking things that we can't really do something about. The PHP errors, obviously, we can do about some things about them. I think blue and colorblind big band on down at the bottom is JavaScript errors that we are responsible. So that's JavaScript from our web servers. that we wrote that breaks. The red thing is ads, basically. Our primary source of income is advertising, and ads means someone else is putting code on your website, and that code breaks a lot. And we want to know how much it breaks. We can't really control what's going on there, but if something really, really crazy happens, we can inform our ad partners so that they fix it. This is a thing, we track our emails. You see in the morning between 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock, we are sending out digest emails. So you can say, I'm an expert on whatever, monitoring, and when monitoring questions come in, you will get an email next morning. This jump at the beginning and the end was something that Skyline sometimes highlights. I'm sure we can train it somehow, not yet figured it out. Okay, we all know that pattern. During the day, everything's fine, and we have a lot of new questions, answers, whatever. In the night, nothing much happens. What is not so obvious, though, is that this is the length of the content produced. And as I said before, we believe length to be an indicator of quality, because these are the answers. Sometimes people tend to say, just Google it, man. And it's a short answer, and it's not a helpful answer at all. Okay, in the night, there's a lot of noise, but what we get rather reliably is before noon, around noon, the quality is better than in the afternoon, and we don't really know why. But that may, at the moment it's okay, but that may have implications on how much monitoring our content needs. There are complaints coming in for bad content, of course. Someone has to deal with them. We may have, if that pattern gets bigger, we may have to shift around the working times of community management. And last, before I end, this was a broken deployment on, I guess, a Monday. It was Monday. And it's a perfect example of medians and averages don't help you. The green line is the median. Nothing happened there. Basically, nothing happened there. We would have missed everything. But there was a migration that was broken, no big deal, but we only found it out there and with this annotation. Without the annotation, we would have thought, where does it come from? There you have a line, and then you go to devs, hey, what did you change, what did you do? And they don't try to tell you, nah, it has nothing to do with me. Okay. That was the graphs I wanted to show you. Thanks for your time. And